Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Chinese President Xi Jinping met 18 times between 2014 and 2019, and a majority of them were bilaterals. However, since 2020, the two leaders have briefly interacted only twice, with no bilateral meetings to account for. The last interaction was at the BRICS summit in South Africa. Now, with speculation of Xi Jinping possibly skipping the G20 summit that Delhi will host, ties between India and China are clearly in deep freeze. But there is a shift in India's foreign policy approach, which has gotten progressively tougher towards Beijing in the backdrop of heightened belligerence by the dragon. In 2014, Xi Jinping visited Prime Minister Modi's home state of Gujarat, and the two leaders went to his hometown of Vadnagar. They sat together on a traditional swing on the Sabarmati riverfront in Ahmedabad and flooded the internet with several other photo ops. Later in 2015, Prime Minister Modi visited Xi's hometown, the ancient city of Xi'an. But the visits didn't put an end to China's salami-slicing tactics. In 2014, PLA troops entered 2 kilometers into Chumar sector of the line of actual control. At the same time, China's all-weather alliance with Pakistan was also growing deeper. India's disapproval was evident when it was revealed that the China-Pakistan economic corridor being built under the Belt and Road Initiative would pass through Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. India opposed this tooth and nail and refused to join the BRI as well. In 2017, amid India's opposition to BRI and CPEC, China turned its focus on Bhutan. Chinese troops entered the scene with road-building vehicles to extend a road southwards into Doklam, which is the strategically crucial territory of Bhutan, which China lays claim on. Bhutan issued a démarche to China to lay off its territory. India, which is a close ally of Bhutan, promptly stepped in with Indian troops to resist this intrusion by the PLA. The Doklam standoff lasted for 3 months until the two countries agreed to mutually disengage in the year. The opposition to CPEC and India's resolute stand on Doklam signaled to China that it was dealing with a new India, which was headstrong and indelible. At the same time, India was busy strengthening ties with the United States, which was being headed by a China hawk, Donald Trump. The Balakot airstrikes and the removal of Article 370 in Jammu and Kashmir in 2019 also sent a signal to China that India was dedicated to protecting the country's security and sovereignty. After an informal summit between Modi and Xi in Wuhan in April 2018, the two leaders had another informal meeting in Tamil Nadu's Mahabalipuram in October 2019. It was here that Prime Minister Modi gave personal diplomacy with Xi yet another sincere chance as he showed the Chinese president around the ancient Indian coastal town. Prime Minister Modi told Xi that Mahabalipuram is a great example of India's cultural heritage and architecture and has witnessed India and China's civilization exchanges and historical connections for more than a dozen centuries. But this bonhomie was to soon end. In 2020, tensions at the LAC in eastern Ladakh started to flare up when Chinese forces encroached upon areas where India had patrolling rights. This resulted in standoffs and skirmishes at Pangong Tso, Hot Springs and Gogra. This was followed by a clash between Indian and Chinese soldiers in the Galwan Valley in 2020, where several soldiers died on both sides. The COVID outbreak, which originated in the Chinese city of Wuhan and then the Galwan clash, was the last straw for India. The Modi government took a slew of measures to hurt China where it hurt the most, economically. 2 weeks after the Galwan clash, India banned 59 widely used Chinese apps like TikTok, Shein, Cam Scanner and PUBG Mobile. The allegation was that these apps were purportedly gathering sensitive user data without permission. India has also been cracking down on Chinese smartphone companies like Vivo, Oppo, Xiaomi and Huawei. Various central agencies have begun investigations against these firms on allegations ranging from income tax evasion and customs violations to fraud and money laundering. The country is set to place import curbs on laptops, PCs and tablets, which would directly affect China's supply chain dominance in these goods. The COVID pandemic triggered a global debate on supply chains and the need to diversify them. India capitalized on this and projected itself as an alternative to China. It is also providing incentives to companies to set up shop in India. Foxconn, Apple and Samsung are some of the companies that have expanded their manufacturing operations in India and are investing billions of dollars. At the heart of the distrust lies the border betrayal. India has made it clear that China eroded strategic trust by trying to unilaterally change the status quo at the LAC and that there can be no normalcy in bilateral relations until there is peace at the border. At the latest BRICS summit, Xi desired a show of unity. Yet there was no proper meeting between him and Prime Minister Modi. In their brief interaction, Prime Minister Modi raised the border issue with Xi. China, however, termed this exchange as a candid and in-depth conversation to restore bilateral ties at the request of India. India hit back at this claim, saying that the exchange came after pending requests from China and not the other way around. Despite its aspirations for a grand and successful G20 in New Delhi, India has not gone out of the way to woo Xi for his attendance at the summit. The message is loud and clear. There can be no warmth in diplomacy until there is settlement at the border.